Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another Pickled Dragon Unscripted. Matt Pickled Dragon here with my good friend and very tired associate, Dracoya,
Yeah.
who has been missing on the road for several days.
I've been jet setting.
Jet setting. It's a
Yeah.
very mystical thing that doesn't exist in my world. It clearly does in her world, though. Magical jet setting. Her dog clearly has been missing her. If you have a
Yeah,
look,
little Zuko.
he is quite beside himself, having been separated from Jacoya for these many days and nights. But in any case, more WotC stuff. And so I'm gonna share a little graphic that's been going around. It's this guy here, this guy. Um, so I'll just read it real quick. The more familiar options have also been tweaked with an emphasis on removing weaknesses. It was always a bit of an oddity and presumably a leftover from additions with a different design philosophy that some species had glaring restrictions while others did not. The Dark Elf sunlight sensitivity, which sure was a hassle when I played one, is simply gone, like like it was for Drow player characters in Baldur's Gate 3. The reduced speeds of gnomes and halflings is gone too. Both are now 30 feet per round, like most species. So, you know, I have always, before I go into this, but I have always assumed that restrictions were not only a logical consequence of playing somebody who's 2 feet tall or 3 feet tall,
Yeah.
uh, or somebody that spent their entire existence underground, or is their whole genetics is adapted to life underground, whatever you want to describe it as. But um, I always thought that these weaknesses were an offset to other abilities that certain creatures would have. So the
Or
sunlight
otherwise it's
sensitivity,
gonna be too overpowered, right?
yeah. So like sunlight sensitivity is a pain in the butt, but they get extra spells. They get other things that offset that weakness, but to a much greater degree than a character or a race that doesn't have those weaknesses. And we could
Right.
debate all day. We certainly could debate all day the whether one race is better than another, and whether things are balanced properly. I've always felt like the Havling, lucky trait where they get to reroll ones, and they get to dash, like they have the small frame where they can hide easily and dash between legs. Those are all very, very significant abilities that come up quite a bit. Um, and a 25-foot speed is I don't think that huge of a drawback in relation to the things they get. Um, so you were saying something, Dracoya, about that.
I mean, yeah, when it comes to halflings, I had a friend who she was a halfling in our game. And sure, being a halfling came with some restrictions. Like every time we would go to a tavern, we'd always have to get her like a book or something so that she could sit up with the rest of us at the bar stools. I mean, it was fun little stuff like that in the game that was just fun to role play. But even during combat, the benefit of her being a halfling is that she did get to weave in and out of some of these giant creatures' legs easily without having an opportunity attack upon her because she was small. But then the other thing we also had was one time we had a room that flooded. Well, the rest of us were okay. I mean, the water came up to our chest, so we were all right. But she was like sitting there really struggling. But so there's cons and pros to being a halfling, but that was part of the fun of playing a halfling. That was part of the magic, is that grief and that strife of how do I create this character? Like, how do I work around that? Because there were so many other positives. Like you said, you can hide better, you're better at sneaking, you're quieter, you don't have as much mass, so you typically go unnoticed. She was also really good at disguises because she was so small, so it was just easy to overlook her. You got pluses and minuses, I think, to most races.
Yeah, and with the D&D 5.5, with them pushing all racial bonuses and some abilities, because I think there's feats associated now with backgrounds. It'll be interesting to see if one, by removing all weaknesses, if they will scale back the abilities of a halfling or a drow, or if they just ride it out and say, just take it all. But
But then what's
I
the point?
yeah, I mean it's like almost to the point where there's very little difference between a Goliath and a halfling,
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's such
statistically.
a homogenous mess. Why do you even, what's the point of having an orc or a halfling or anybody if you're just going to make them all one size fits all? Let's not, hurt anybody's feelings by giving anyone disadvantage, even if that disadvantage comes with a whole list of advantages, then it's just, well, okay, it's just a homogenous mess.
And my experience in the 40 some odd years I've played the game is that characters with weaknesses, and this is true the more glaring of a weakness it is. So, if you happen to roll a 5 dexterity, extremely clumsy individual, or sunlight sensitivity or daylight blindness or whatever. I think at one point Drow had full on blindness in the daylight.
Yeah,
Uh,
which was very annoying.
but um, the more glaring the weakness, I think they become um, an aspect of the character that makes them a richer character for not if they had no weaknesses whatsoever. So
Oh, yeah, sure.
um,
Don't you have flaws, Pat?
I have lots of flaws. I think
Wonderful.
everybody has lots of flaws. And you know, I I totally get that there's probably some people out there who would would I totally get that there are some people out there who are only interested in totally dominating whatever they whatever game they want to play. But every weakness a character has is one more struggle to overcome. And um and it's through that struggle, it's through overcoming the strife and the challenges of the game, whether they are external or internal, meaning the character's personal weaknesses. Um, you know, those things are what make the game fun. It is the struggle.
Mhm.
And if you are just good at everything all the time, it just, you know, and maybe there's some people there. I'm sure that there are people out there that absolutely love the idea of being good at everything all the time. But to me, in my mind, I think that makes it for a much more boring game.
I agree. I agree.
Much like
Imagine if you were naturally good at everything all the time in life. Do you know how boring it would be? You would never have to strive to be anything better than yourself. You would also never achieve greatness, because part of becoming somebody like, I don't know, Beethoven is, it's not just, oh, you were just born with this ability. It's, there's some natural talent, but you had to work at it. And that work makes it so much more enjoyable. I mean, look at the Olympians going on. They weren't just born with the ability to do these giant backflips off of a beam. They worked hard at that. And that that is what you want in your game. Something that you can actually be proud of achieving.
a lot of times that could be finding that workaround to sunlight sensitivity and it's seeing, I think my biggest problem with it is just the narrowing of the game into the single slipstream, like the way what they've done with what they've done with the spell skill or the all the different spells for the different classes, making single giant spell lists. Like, where, at what point have we taken a wizard and, and, you know, homogenized it to the point where it's not special anymore from any other class? It's the same with races by, you know, they're defined by their strengths and weaknesses. But when you start taking those things away and you just you lay everything down in this single trench, it's just like, and maybe that's the point. Maybe D&D with them moving full tilt towards the VTT, the virtual tabletop, they just see race as a skin, for your character. It's how you appear on the screen and
Oh
nothing more.
God. I hope that's not. I'm worried that you're right. I hope that that's not the direction that they're headed, but that would make a lot more sense.
But I mean, which brings me to this art, like as bland and as uninspiring as the thought of some of these changes are to my mind. You can think whatever you want. I'm sure there's gonna be people that attack for the sake of attacking. But I look at this art and I think, like, this is like a stock photo from some business website, or a bunch of guys and gals working together as a team. You got one guy over here, he's having a good old time. You got shaved head people, shaved on the sides of their head. You got this guy in the middle who threw a rope around it. He doesn't appear to be helping at all. He looks like he's actually hindering the effort, which I think is hilarious. Uh, this is just another one of those pictures that have been thrown together that seem to be pretty pointless. And the thing that really makes that I laugh at is this lady in the back with her hands up.
Like,
And
what is she doing?
yeah, what is she
She's
doing? No one is even
like,
looking at her. Like, she's directing and she's got her hands up and she's like, like directing air traffic, but no one's
yeah,
even paying attention to her.
yeah.
I don't know what this is supposed to be. Obviously, they're putting down some stone plinth, but uh, yeah, it's just uninspired artwork. Just, oh, it looks fantasy, so we'll just stick it in there. And
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. I remember I was asking Matt, I was like, what's up with this blue guy? Why is this guy blue? And why does this guy have stripes? I'm so confused. And then he's like, oh, they're supposed to be Goliaths. I'm like, they're not Goliaths. They're just buff dudes.
yeah. And they got like the rope. Like, what's he doing with that rope around the
I
middle of
don't
this big
know.
stone? Like, he's not helping lift. I mean, he's not doing anything. You
It
know?
looked, I thought at first that it was tied to this guy with the long hair, like the wrists, but I'm not really sure if that's the case or if it's, I don't know. It's just not making
Ah,
sense, but whatever. And then
I
you
don't
got the
know.
purple girl in the background. She's not actually like in a position where she looks like she's helping. She's just
She
posing.
will say when it's all said and done that she helped, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I
All right.
helped
Yay.
while everyone else struggled. Rope guy seems to be the most confused of them all, though.
Well, good, because he makes me the most confused too. So we got that in common.
Yeah.
But I want to hear from everybody else. Like, do you guys have some fun stories? Tell us about your fun stories where you played a drow or a halfling or some other character that had some kind of disadvantage to its build. And tell me how the solutions you and your party created for some of these disadvantages and how you got around some of these things. I want to hear some of the stories and comments below. And if it's good enough, we can even talk about it in our next video. So
Yeah. And
like, go on.
like, comment, subscribe.
Come back to have another round on us.
Woohoo!